Director of Mobilization for the Take It Back movement, Damilare Adenola, has formally requested permission from Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, to use the Eagle Square for the upcoming #EndBadGovernance protest. In his letter, Adenola outlined the need for access to the venue both day and night. He also requested provision of power supply and access to other essential facilities within the square. He also asked that the protesters be afforded the same level of courtesy extended to foreign and local dignitaries who have previously used the venue. He expressed hope that the barriers obstructing access to the Aso Rock Villa be removed to facilitate easier entry for the protesters. Joining us on the news is Nelson Ekujimi, a public affairs analyst, and Dr. Jide Johnson, a public affairs commentator. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
So let's begin with you, Ekujimi. What are your thoughts on the planned protest and the widespread reaction, it has sparked?
Well, thank you very much. I just watched your news now, and this is the first time we are seeing any group or any name being identified with the protest. Formerly, the protest organizers have been underground or they have been faceless. So a lot of us who are in the business of public demonstrations or public engagements have been asking, why is it difficult for people who want to embark on a protest to come out and let the public know their intentions? But be that as it may, I think why it has generated this reaction from the public space is because people are still living with the memories of the NSAS insurrection and protest of anarchy in 2020, where civilians were killed, policemen were killed, even some policemen that were killed were cannibalized, where public and private assets were looted and burnt, where individuals were robbed on the roads, where some persons, because they feel that disappointed by the way Nigerians are appeared to be. So that is the reason why Nigerians are this agitated about this protest.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ekujimi, for that. Now let's forward the same question to Dr. Johnson. What is your perspective on the protest? Do you believe that the call for it is justified at this time?
One of the fundamental values of democracy is for the majority to have their way and the minority to have their say. You need dissenting and consenting view to build any given society. So protest, the right to self-expression of dissent with government policies and program, it's a fundamental principle of democratic government. And so we practice democracy, and so people have a fundamental right to express their dissent in a peaceful and non-violent manner. And just like Nelson said, that why a lot of people are having misgivings concerning protests in Nigeria was as a result of the outcome of 2020 NSAS protest. Don't forget that the present democratic experience we are enjoying were a product of NADECO protest. And so without those NADECO protests and movement, we wouldn't have this democracy we are enjoying today. So there is no way we can grow this nation without giving opportunity for dissenting view. I agree with him in the sense that if you want to protest, there must be an identity. You can't be an amorphous group and want to plan a protest. There should be an identity to the groups that want to plan this protest so that government can engage and they can engage with security agencies with respect to what they need and what they require in terms of the protest and those that can be held accountable.
Okay,
and
so now that somebody has been identified, does it make any difference? Does it change anything?
I think the Minister of Federal Capital Territory should make available the resources they have required for them to make use of the Eagle Square if We can use it for party convention, you can use it for other things. People can also use it for dissent. So they should make it available to them, provide them with security, as long as they confine themselves within that venue, and then properties are not destroyed, people are not, ordinary citizens are not harassed, and people are not stopped from going about their normal business. I think it's the fundamental responsibility of the government and security agencies to provide venue for people that want to express their dissent. And that is what is done in civilized clime. You talk about Trafalgar Square, United Kingdom, and the rest of it. So once that body has applied, I think we should, for us to really deepen democracy, we must provide opportunities for dissenting views in a democratic, peaceful manner.
Okay. Now, let's come back to you, Mr. Ekujimi. Now, what is your opinion on the warnings from some quarters, against holding the protest? We did see a report that traditional leaders were in a meeting to, speak to people about holding the protest as well. Could this be seen as an attempt to infringe on the people's right to protest?
Well, I don't think so, because I've listened to some of the comments coming from certain quarters, and it has been one of appeal. And if somebody is appealing to you not to take a course of action, it does not make your course of action illegal or wrong. It means the person is only telling you to reconsider your course of action. But if you decide to go otherwise, I think that is within your right. But most importantly, why a lot of admonitions have been going on is because the protesters, organizers have been faceless. Nobody knew them until you came up with a letterhead of an organization. So this is an organization that belonged to a person, or who was the head of the organization, who has contested the election repeatedly and he has lost. So for some of us, when we see things like this, we are asking, are you really for politics or you are for revolution? Because you cannot come and participate in politics, and when you lose election, the next minute you are calling for revolution. Revolution to do what? So if people have been admonished, we hope that they will consider that advice from. Don't forget that some of these admonitions are coming from elderly citizens. They are coming from traditional rulers who are our fathers. So if my father is talking to me as a young man, if I don't want to miss my way, it behoves on me to listen and reflect on what my father has said. But be that as it may, like Jide Johnson has rightly said, it's within their rights to go on these protests, or if they want to. But they must recognize that going on a protest does not in any way give you the liberty to infringe on the rights of other citizens.
Yeah, but even at that, Mr. Ekujimi, we've actually seen the violence that erupted during the Kenyan protest, and also the crackdown during the Ugandan protest. I'm sure this is what the government is actually afraid of. But do you anticipate any potential crackdown by security forces if the protest does proceed?
No, I expect that the security forces will intervene if the protest goes against the norms. It goes contrary to the Constitution of Nigeria. And that is when you start infringing on other person's right. Don't forget, when we had the 2020 protests, some persons claimed that it was hijacked. So if you are holding a party in your house, or anywhere in a public space, it behoves on you to provide security and ensure that unwanted people don't go into the venue. If an unwanted person comes into the venue, and God forbid, maybe the person is under the weather, and he collapses and dies, there's nothing you can tell anybody. He would have collapsed and died on your property. So you will be liable. So in this case, the violence you are talking about, if it eventually degenerates to that level, you and I know that the police have a constitutional right to maintain law and order. And the police have a right to abort a protest if they realize that there's a threat to public peace. That you are going to protest does not mean it is absolute. If the police have information that you as a protester is going to be harmed, the police have a right to go and rescue you and take you away from the protest. So people should not believe that any rights you have under the Constitution is absolute. Those rights must be gathered within the confines of the law.
Okay. Now, just before we go, Dr. Jide, one last question for you. Now, talking about this particular formal request by the Director of Mobilization of the Take It Back movement, do you see the government, giving access, granting access to protesters, that's access to the Eagle Square to protesters, considering that they're totally against it and there's been so much drama, rumored to want to happen between August 1st to August 15th? Do you see them granting that request?
Well, if you look at the character and the presence of the FCT minister, it takes a simple thing to come to a judgment with respect to what will be his action or reaction. In the visuals you play earlier, you saw the language he was using. The language he used was that of not even a minister, was that of not even a democratically elected person, someone that has a democratic perspective, but someone that has an autocratic and authoritarian disposition towards the issue. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm not too sure that request will be granted by the FCT. But moving forward, and I think this is what will be very, very good for our country. I think moving forward, across the length and breadth of Nigeria, across the 36 states capital, the federal capital, and the local government capital, I think we should have spaces, designated spaces, created by government, that if you have any kind of dissent, these are the spaces you could go to. You recall in 2012, we went to Ojota. In 2012, we went to Ojota Gani Fahimi Center. You have that Abiola Center to along that Lagos-Ibadan Expressway on the way to Third Mainland Bridge. So government should create a designated places whereby if people want to express dissent, so that you can provide security and there can be media coverage.
Even in Abuja, the Unity Fountain is usually used for protests like this.
Yeah, so that if you want to protest, so that you don't block the road, you don't disturb other people, you don't use your own right to protest to infringe on other people's right. That I agree in totality. But we must make provisions for people that have dissent to express their dissent. That is the beauty of democracy. Those that are enjoying this Fourth Republic, they enjoy the benefit of the protest and the movement led by NADECO. And that's why they are in government today. And they should understand that dissent is part of growing the society. That's just my conclusion.
All right, well, thank you so much, Mr. Ekujimi, and also Dr. Johnson, for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak to us on this.
It's a pleasure to be with you. And thank you, Nyesom, for joining us on this